Hi there, my name is Ariana from the blog And Here We Are, and for today's cooking lesson I am going to teach you about my secret weapon for getting food on the table fast. What it is that I have sauces, marinades, compound butters, and dressings pre-made in my fridge and ready to go. These are all things that are really simple and quick to make, and they save me so much time, hassle, and mental energy every day when it's time for dinner. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, let's talk ingredients for just a minute. This is what you'll need for the marinade. A tablespoon of sea salt, 3 or 4 fresh garlic cloves, about a 1-inch knob of fresh ginger, the juice of 1 lemon, a small bunch of fresh thyme. Cayenne pepper is optional but provides a really nice kick. Freshly ground pepper, and 3 tablespoons of olive oil. In terms of equipment, this is a mini chopper that came with my immersion blender, and I use it all the time. It is so great for sauces. And so this is what I usually use. However, I have also used a mortar and pestle. So if for some reason you can't get your hands on an electric chopper, then you can kick it old school with a mortar and pestle, and that will be just fine. It'll just come out a little chunkier. Okay, now let's get to work. Okay, let's whip this up. So all we need to do is add everything all at once into the bowl of your mixer. So I've gone ahead and chopped up the ginger a little bit and peeled the garlic. I'm going to throw those in here. You know, I'm not even going to worry too much about the stems on the thyme. The extra woodsy ones maybe I'll pull off. But really, this is not a fussy recipe at all. Okay, I'm just going to squeeze that lemon juice through my hand to catch the seeds. There we go. Roughly measuring the salt. About a tablespoon. Dash of cayenne. I like a generous dash. Okay, some olive oil. Get that in there. And plenty of fresh ground black pepper. Alright folks, that is all of the ingredients. My cord is a little tight, so I'm going to pull this over here. Okay, and we're just going to process. One thing you might need to do is grab a tiny spatula, or a regular spatula, to scrape down the sides of the bowl. I like the tiny ones. So here we go. So it's still pretty chunky. Okay, I don't know. Probably see that there. Now, in all honesty, this part is easiest if you're making a double or triple batch, because the more that's in there, the more easily it blends together. And by the way, I highly recommend doubling or tripling your batch, because there's nothing better than having extra marinade on hand, and you can freeze it. It's perfect. Okay, we're all done with the blending, and this is what it looks like. I'm going to go ahead and pour it into this dish. Okay. And this is our nice, chunky, but blended marinade. So when you bring home some meat from your butcher or the grocery store, just pull it out right away. Put about 2 tablespoons or so of the marinade into a Ziploc bag. Add your meat. Press all of the air out of it. And then just kind of rub it around to make sure that that marinade gets all over the meat. And then you can freeze it that way if you bought a lot, or you can just pop it in the fridge. And when it's time to cook, you've already got a super flavorful protein, and all you have to do is cook it up. Okay, so that's how we make the marinade. Okay, here are the ingredients for the compound butter. We're going to have about a block of butter. Mine looks a little weird, but that's about a pound of butter. And a small bunch of fresh parsley. Now you could definitely substitute other herbs, but what we want is a nice fresh herb that will have a vibrant flavor, about 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice, about a tablespoon of cumin seeds if you want. You can also use ground. And then about a teaspoon of sea salt. Once again, you can add cayenne pepper for a nice little kick. I always like to. It doesn't have to be spicy. It just kind of brings things to life a little bit. Fresh ground pepper and a little bit of olive oil. And again, I'm going to use my handy dandy chopper that comes with my immersion blender to blend this one. I wouldn't really recommend using a mortar and pestle, but you could probably, if you chopped up the parsley really finely, work this together with a fork or a whisk, but it will take more work. So those are the ingredients you'll need. Feel free to improvise, and let's get started. Okay, let's make some compound butter. First thing we need to do is get that butter into some manageable chunks to put into our little chopper here. So you want your butter reasonably soft. You don't want it all melty, but I did thaw this. It was frozen. You absolutely cannot work with frozen butter, so it needs to be not room temperature, but a little cooler than room temperature, I'd say. So here we go. Got it in chunks going into the chopper. And once again, couldn't be easier. We're putting everything in whole, just about. Okay? So putting in my parsley. Sliding in my cumin seeds. Again, you can use ground cumin if you want, but I kind of like the chunkiness. And then squeezing in a couple tablespoons of lemon juice. Okay, I just use my hand to catch the seeds. And I'm going to do salt. There we go. Dash of cayenne pepper. But I like more than a dash. A little bit of olive oil. The olive oil really just helps keep it a little bit softer. Once you've gotten it mixed together and it's been chilled in the fridge, having the olive oil helps keep it just a little bit more soft. And some fresh ground pepper. Okay, so once again, bring out my favorite appliance and let it blend. This can take maybe about 2 minutes, but what you really want is for it to all just be incorporated. Alright, so I'm going to do this and let you go, and I'll be right back when it's finished and all blended up, and I'll show you. Okay, so we've got it all blended up, and see it's nice and glossy and soft. The herbs are chopped nicely, and everything is evenly incorporated. Okay, so at this point you definitely want to taste it. The number one things that I end up adding after I taste it are lemon juice and salt. So give it a taste. If it is perfect, then you're done. If not, add what you need to add and blend it again. It couldn't be easier, so you might as well get it just right. Now, something I like to do is to put it in ice cube trays. This is a really super handy way to store it. So if you just kind of smooth the butter into an ice cube tray, then you can either refrigerate it, wait till it's really hard, or stick it in the freezer, and then break out the cubes, put them in a Ziploc bag, and they are ready for you when you are. Okay, so that is how you make compound butter. Okay, let's talk ingredients for the chimichurri sauce. So the star of the show here is really this fresh parsley. So you're going to want about a good packed cup of chopped fresh parsley. Then the other fresh herb is some oregano. You can substitute dried if you need to, but fresh is really nice. A couple cloves of fresh garlic, about a teaspoon of sea salt, and then I don't know if you can see it, but here we have some chili flakes. So that's about a half teaspoon, but really that's to your taste depending on how spicy you and your family like things. We have about 2 tablespoons of white wine vinegar, fresh ground pepper to taste, and about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And once again, you're going to use your handy dandy chopper for this one. You really want it nice and smooth, so although you could probably get away with the mortar and pestle here, this will make your life so much easier. So those are the ingredients, and let's get started. Okay, let's make some chimichurri sauce. First thing you want to do is really roughly chop that parsley. And if you notice, I have the stems still intact. And you know what? This is one of those times that you can use the stems. They give a lot of flavor and bulk. So we're just going to throw those in there as well. You just want to make sure that you roughly chop it so nothing gets wrapped around the blade. Okay, so let's put all that in there. That might be more than a cup, but I'm okay with that. You can't really go wrong. Okay, let's get all that in there. And I need to skin this garlic. While I do that, I want to tell you my favorite way to use a chimichurri sauce. I like to make a flank steak or a skirt steak, which is a tougher cut of beef, but it's really beautiful if you cook it really hot and fast on the stove, like in a skillet or on the grill. And then it comes out under 10 minutes about, and then you just drizzle some of this sauce on it, and it is super flavorful. So that is what I love to do with chimichurri, and if you buy a flank steak and you've got chimichurri sauce in the fridge, then you can have dinner ready in 10 minutes. So let's put the garlic in there, the oregano. I'm going to leave out that woody stem there. Some salt, chili flakes, pepper, always pepper, some olive oil. Okay, and while I wait for that, I'm going to go ahead and throw in some vinegar. It's white wine vinegar, and of course if you wanted to, you could use red wine. Don't let that one little ingredient stop you. Okay, so we've got it all in there. And let's puree this. And again, you may need to scrape down the sides and just keep working it until you get a nice smooth consistency. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and chop this on my own here so you don't have to put up with that, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we've got it all blended up. You can still see some texture there, but that's fine. You want it to be just a little bit chunky. And so I'm going to go ahead and put this in a ramekin. And you know what? This is another one of those sauces that does awesome frozen. So again, you might want to fill an ice cube tray with this sauce, let it freeze, and then put it in a plastic bag or a container for you to pull out when you bring home that flank steak. So there it is. Okay, here are the ingredients that you'll need for a classic French vinaigrette. You'll start with about a 1/3 cup of extra virgin olive oil. You need about a tablespoon of white wine vinegar. You could also substitute red wine vinegar or apple cider vinegar. It will change it a little bit, but it'll still be a really good vinaigrette. 1/2 teaspoon of Dijon mustard, about a 1/2 tablespoon of chopped shallots, 1/8 of a teaspoon of sea salt, and then my equipment that I use for this is a good old-fashioned stick blender or immersion blender. If you want to make it in a regular blender, you'll just need to double or triple at least the recipe. But I love this because you can work with much smaller quantities. And this is the little work bowl that you'll use to go with the stick blender. So that's what you'll need. Let's get started. Alright, so the basic components of a vinaigrette are an oil and an acid. In this case, we're going to use white wine vinegar. If you want, you can use red wine vinegar. Don't let that stand in your way, or even apple cider vinegar. So again, if you're using an immersion blender like I will be, it seriously couldn't be easier. I know some people are intimidated about vinaigrettes because you have to whisk it so much to get all the oil emulsified, but in this case you don't. The immersion blender does all of that work for you, so super easy. My oil is so slow, so I'm just going to jump ahead while it pours here. Add some salt, add some chopped shallots, and add that Dijon mustard. There we go. Of course, you could also add any herbs that you want. You could put parsley in, or chives would be really good in this, and you could use chives instead of the shallots. All right. And you always want about twice as much oil to the vinegar. Okay, so that looks about right to me, but we'll taste it. So it doesn't matter if you don't get all the proportions right away. You can always taste it and adjust. It's no big deal. All right, so now I'm going to grab my immersion blender and blend away. Okay, shake it off. little drop. It's pretty good. Needs more salt and more olive oil. So I'm going to do those adjustments and I'm going to blend it again and I'll be back with you. Okay, so I got that all blended up and it has emulsified beautifully. It looks really creamy. I'm going to go ahead and pour it in there. See that it's nice and thick? And this goes well not only on salads, but also really well on simply prepared vegetables. One of my favorite things to do is to boil some chopped up leeks until they're soft. I press all of the water out, and then while they're still warm, I put some of this vinaigrette and just let it sit there and marinate a little bit. So maybe like 5 minutes or something like that. And of course you can eat it right away if you're in a hurry. So that is our vinaigrette. Couldn't be easier. So now you know all about my secret weapon for getting dinner on the table super fast. I pre-make marinades, dressings, sauces, and compound butters so that when it's time for dinner, all I have to think about is a protein, a vegetable, a starch, and then I've already got all this wonderful flavor made up and ready to go in the fridge. I want you to know that you can alter any of these for your family's taste. These are just basic recipes that you can elaborate on and make personal just for you and your family. It's really easy. You can do dinner quickly. I thought I'd show you what one of my super fast dinners looks like. So tonight I went ahead and I made a really quickly cooked flank steak and I drizzled that chimichurri sauce right on there. While this was cooking, I steamed some sweet potatoes. When those came out, I used that compound butter to flavor it. And then while both of these were cooking, I whipped up a super simple salad. It has greens, some peppers, and cucumbers. And I just drizzled that salad dressing on there and dinner was ready. And it was not much effort and it's going to be full of flavor. So let's take a bite. Okay, let's try some steak first. This is the flank steak with chimichurri sauce. So good. I love the acidity of the vinegar. And it's a really nice tang. The herbs are really bright and the texture just melts perfectly with the beef. And I have to tell you, I did not season this beef at all. I just cooked it and let the sauce do all the work and it is so good. Alright, let's try some sweet potato. This is a sweet potato that has compound butter on it. That is so good. It's so much more than just a buttered sweet potato. You get that lemon, there's a cumin, and a little bit of kick from the cayenne pepper. It's really special. Alright, how about salad? So this is just that simple green salad with the Dijon vinaigrette. Really good. I can't believe how creamy you can get vinegar and olive oil together. And the Dijon, it brings it right up there. It is so good. And now I am going to get to finishing this meal. So thanks for joining me in my kitchen today, and I hope that you can use some of my tricks to make dinner really fast for your family.